Hi, everybody. I'm Rogers Haley, the host of Rogers That, a podcast dedicated, obsessed with sharing the story of selling without selling out. And today we have somebody who considers herself the female Iverson with a mix of Dr. J, because she can even maybe finger roll like George Gervin. She called herself the Magic Johnson of the 90s. Also, today, if she was going to play one-on-one against a player that potentially could beat her, she picked peak Kobe Bryant. She's my friend. She is a basketball legend, not just in the state of Texas, but in the country, whether it's in Philly, New Jersey, where she's from, here in Dallas, Texas, as the first African-American women's head coach of the Southern Methodist University Mustangs. She's done it all, from Michigan to Baylor to now SMU, where she's making her impression felt by being a leader, by being sincere, and most importantly, by being herself. Today on the show, we have my friend, Coach Toyelle Wilson. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I'm so excited. How do I follow up with that?
How was that intro?
Really well. That was amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It was on point, as usual.
In all fairness, she did write the intro for me. But Toyelle, you and I share a common love. My first love was basketball. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I'm in love with it as much as you are now, because you live it, you breathe it. Your basketball is a big part of your life. So maybe get us to the point where you're at now as the head coach of one of the most esteemed programs in the entire country. What's the story that got you here?
Well, I loved the game from when I was younger, and I played the game from when I was really, really young. But actually, my first sport was tennis.
Really?
Yeah, I go and play with Coach all the time over at the facility.
Really?
So I love tennis, but that was my first sport. And I tried at the YMCA basketball, and they were like, you got something going there. And then I just kept playing it, and I have a twin sister. So we played basketball outside in the backyard and in this AAU league. And I really just loved the game and got an opportunity to play college basketball. Played at Manhattan College. 4 years there and graduated with a business degree. And my head coach went to Robert Morris, and he said, Toyelle, you are such a leader on the court. Would you want to be on the other side of the basketball?
Without any desire to actually be a coach?
No, I was going to be business degree, business major, business management, going to that field. So that I wasn't really thinking about coaching. But to be able to impact young ladies' lives, that's what I love to do. And so fast forward 19, 20 years now, it's the only job I've had is being a college basketball coach.
Really? For me, I didn't have the gift of being a great athlete. I was never a great athlete. I was going to share a story. There is no story to share because I was just a terrible athlete. I was overweight. I tried out for the team every year, and I got cut from basketball every year from fifth grade until senior year of high school. But it was always interesting to me, these people that have transitioned, whether it's into broadcasting or coaching. Mm-hmm. Was there ever a point where you were like, oh my God, it's so much harder to be on the other side of the court? Or did you just kind of transition into that very naturally?
No, for sure. When I first started coaching college basketball, I was 21 years old. So there were some seniors that were older than me.
Oh my God.
And I was a full-time assistant coach. And so I had to first establish, like, I'm a coach. I'm not your friend. Like, there's a line there. And so at Robert Morris, the one good thing was my head coach let me have a voice. And I think the girls understood I had knowledge of the game. And when kids nowadays, they can tell if you don't know something, they'll test you, they'll question you, or they'll try anything. And so for me, being able to have a voice early when I was young, starting coaching, it really helped me establish my I guess leadership to these young ladies and the relationship I was able to build. And I think that was the second thing, not only my voice, but being able to have a relationship with my players and them know me as a person. I always tell the kids, and even when I'm recruiting kids don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And so if they know you care, if they know,
again,
kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's a nugget.
But I feel like if the kids know that you care for them as a person, not just as a basketball player, they'll trust you. They'll run through walls for you. They'll listen to you. They'll absorb everything and be sponges to everything you have to say.
See, it's interesting you talk about this. I was thinking about this morning randomly about, when I started my company, my real estate company, everyone has different advice, and rarely is it from people that have actually started a company. But the one of the common themes from the people that have actually been entrepreneurs successfully was don't ever hire your friends.
Yep.
Which, don't hire your friends. But I was thinking randomly this morning, can you become friends with people that you hire? And for you, maybe there's some wisdom you can share where you talked about being a part. It's hard, like whether you're 21 or you're older than 21, you're around the people that work with you and for you more than anybody on planet Earth. how do you just go and create such a wall that you're not yourself? But what does that look like for you, whether you're 21 or 20 years into it, like you are now?
So it's funny you say, like, don't hire your friends. And when I became a head coach at Prairie View, that's my first head coaching job. I was 25, 26. I was the youngest head coach in the country. And so I didn't really have any friends that I thought won like really well that would come coach with me. And you have to think about that. Who has...
You were 25 years old as a head coach?
Yes.
So you had been coaching for 3.5 years.
Right. At Robert Morris as an assistant member at 21, right? And so...
And was Robert Morris, was it a dominant school when you were there? Was it just...
We were okay. They were on the rebuild. So
how did you even get interviews to be a head coach?
So let me tell you this. I was an assistant for 3 years at Prairie View, first with Cynthia Cooper. She played with the Houston Comets.
Yeah, duh.
Yep. And so I was doing camps at the Lakers camps in Santa Barbara, and I just built these networks. And one of the men's coaches said, hey, Cynthia Cooper is looking for an assistant coach. Would you be interested? I had no idea about Texas. All I knew was Cowboys. Everything's bigger, barbecue, and maybe some horses. I don't know. But I didn't have any family in Texas, and so I drove my car from Pittsburgh to Houston or Cypress area, coached for 3 years as an assistant. She left. And then that's when they said the AD and the president came off and said, like, you're not going with her. We want you to be the next head coach here. And so going back to what you said in my story on how I got here, we won it 3 straight years. We played Baylor, UConn, Baylor in the NCAA tournament.
This is still at what school?
At Prairie View. And that's when Kim Mulkey called me after my 3rd year as the head coach and said, hey, would you want to be an assistant again? I know, that's a couple questions you want to ask too about me going from head coach to an assistant. And so I went there to learn from the best and be able to still grow. And
at Baylor.
Yeah.
So you went from being a head coach to an assistant. I don't know we're telling 8 stories at once, which
right,
is perfect.
It's okay.
No, my ADD is really happy right now. But I'm still fascinated with the fact that, whether it's at a smaller school or massive school, to have that opportunity. And again, Cynthia Cooper, I would put her as she's on the Mount Everest, Mount Rushmore of, basketball players. And she was, right around that time as Rebecca Lobo and Lisa Leslie for the first to pioneer the WNBA.
Absolutely. Cheryl Swoops, remember them?
Oh, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
She was number 23 because of Jordan.
Yeah, she was on the Comets team too, Tina Thompson.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I went from there to Baylor for 6, and then to get to Michigan, that story, that head coach, they came in, the first and second round was hosted by Baylor, and she said, hey, when you're going to get back to the East Coast, close to the East Coast? I'm from Jersey. She's from New York. I knew her. And she said, I said, when we win a national championship. We won it in 2019. She calls, and I says, you remember you told me a year ago? Well, my head recruiting coordinator left to get a head coaching job. Would you be interested in coming? And I thought it'd be I love challenges. And so I thought it would be a great opportunity to go to University of Michigan. Obviously, people know University of Michigan for Tom Brady and, and...
No, wait, Fab Five. I know about
Fab
Michigan
Five,
from Fab
to say, Juwan Howard.
Yeah, come on.
Okay, Jalen Rose.
Desmond Howard, too.
Chris Webber, the bad timeout he took in the
Listen, nobody... I think you and I grew up in the last great generation of music and maybe the greatest generation of sports.
Yes,
ever. And
absolutely.
There was nothing better than North Carolina and Michigan basketball, a little bit of Duke in the early 90s through the early 2000s. So,
remember.
It was Jalen Rose, Juwan Howard, Chris Webb, Juwan Howard, who might still be in the NBA. He's played for like 35 years.
He's the head coach there.
At Michigan, that's right. Yeah. I do. And then it was Jimmy King, and then the one guy that didn't play in the NBA. Oh my gosh.
Was it Rice?
Glenn Rice? No, Glenn Rice went to Michigan, but he was a different era.
I forgot the 5th guy, but
someone will comment and humble us. We need like a stat boy. Anyway, so Michigan is such a. I mean, it's a storied school in general, but for basketball and football, there's nothing bigger.
No,
but I still got to hear the story. So you go and this is you're humbling yourself as you're speaking, but you get a head coaching job at 25, essentially taking over for one of the greatest of all time at Prairie View A&M, which is in Texas. You go from Pittsburgh to Dallas, which good move leaving Pittsburgh. And so you get here and you're at the top of the world. You're a head coach. What was the sales pitch to go, other than the fact it's a storied franchise, to go and essentially downgrade your position, where the theme of this podcast is, again, like, your head can't get to you. You got to make sure that you're always pursuing greatness, but doing it in a humble way. But what did that look like where you knew it was what you knew where you would end up?
Yeah. Well, to go to Baylor and like you just said, I want to pursue greatness, and I'm continually learning and growing, and there's no ceiling on that. And so I wanted to learn more. Okay, I was a head coach for 3 years. Yes, I was successful, but I knew there was still a lot for me to learn. And so for me to be able to learn from one of the Hall of Famers, Coach Kim Mulkey, and be able to do that, it was an amazing opportunity to do it at the Big 12 at the time when the Big 12 is the best in the country, the best conference, and to be successful in doing that. And so I learned so much. I actually questioned myself, how was I a head coach for 3 years and not know this or not know that? Because I was learning so much and just being a sponge.
And you could do that like with a positive attitude.
For sure.
You know, which I think, but again, most people don't take that approach. Most people, like we had a girl in here, Charlie Collier, a while back, who ended up being the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft. And I remember talking to her. She's great. She's also an agent here at RHA. But one of the most enjoyable parts of her conversation was that she knew that she had to start over in high school, in college, on the select team, and then in the WNBA. But the goal was to learn as much as she could, as quick as she could, to where she could be the person teaching the next generation. And it seems like you've kind of always had that
mentality,
that mindset. So you go to Baylor, and again, Baylor basketball it's Michigan basketball in Texas. And you do that. And what happened in your tenure there?
So we won a national championship in 2019, went to Sweet 16s, Elite Eights, all that. Wow. So then I ended up going to University of Michigan, and the first year was COVID, unfortunately. So that was the year all basketball was canceled. But the second year they had it COVID-like, where you had to get tested every day, go into work, we had to get swabbed every day. Obviously, we had the COVID shot and everything like that. But when we went to the bubble and the NCAA tournament was in San Antonio, I got about 4 calls. And so I'm scouting for.
How did they get your number? Is it through
so
your
I have an agent? Yes.
Okay.
And he said, "Hey T, this team is looking for this coach."
Even though you're not necessarily looking.
No,
everyone's always looking.
No, not looking at all. I was only there. I don't like to. Obviously, I was at Prairie View for 6, Baylor at 6. So Michigan, I only finished my second year. And so they said, these 4 schools are calling you. Would you be interested? So I just got on the Zoom and just said hello, because I'm just introduced myself.
While you're still coaching another team?
Yes.
Was that hard to go and check out from? Did you feel like disloyal? Or
no, I always upfront with my boss, but just the interest. I wasn't everyone I tried to interview with. It was so much the interest of SMU and my familiarity with that. When I know Fran Fraschilli is one of my good friends that lives out here, and I knew was up here. Coach Jank was up here, and I had come up here and talked basketball with him before, and so I was familiar with SMU, recruiting kids in Dallas.
Wait, so this is the SMU story? I was still okay. So
so we're still Michigan.
Prairie View, Michigan. Michigan was after Baylor?
No, Baylor then Michigan.
Baylor was first and then Michigan.
Yes.
Okay, but then you mentioned SMU. So SMU was in the mix.
One of the mix while I was at Michigan. So one of the 4 schools I'm not interviewing, but just talking to.
They pursued.
Yes. One was SMU. So it was SMU, University of Washington, OU, Monmouth, UTSA. The thing I'm saying that really piqued my interest was I knew about SMU already.
Yeah.
So that's why it was really a little more interesting. We lose in the Sweet 16 to Baylor in overtime, and they called me and say, "Hey, would you fly?" We lost on like a weekend day, and the next day they wanted me to fly to SMU. I said, "Listen, I've been in a bubble for 2.5 weeks because you couldn't leave the bubble."
Where was it?
In San Antonio.
Oh,
so your hotel was just the one team on one floor. You couldn't leave the floor. Our breakfast was delivered to the door.
Nope.
And we were in a bubble. They had to be as safe as possible so no one could go outside your bubble.
I would have a panic attack.
Right. So, even like to the point where our meetings were like on Zoom, things like that. So I interviewed over the Zoom call with SMU for 5 hours.
With one
I didn't
sitting?
fly out.
What do you like? What is a Zoom for 5 hours? I mean, they just
so
ask
basically,
you.
Let's say the senior executive committee, the SWA, the players, the president. They didn't. I'm just giving you examples, but the president. So different people are interviewing me, and I'm just basically on a Zoom call, like as if I was going to different meetings on campus.
Oh, I gotcha.
So after that, they offered me the job. I never even stepped foot on campus.
Are you serious? That is a leap of faith.
Yeah, and I told them, I said, listen, we had a very traumatic flight from San Antonio back to Ann Arbor. We had to do an emergency landing in Evanston, Illinois.
Hell no.
The actual things dropped down. The
oxygen mask?
Yes.
Nope.
That's how bad it was.
Nope.
So I told them, if it's gonna hurt me that I can't fly out, then let me know. And they said, no, it shouldn't hurt you at all. The other 2 candidates actually came in person. So did my Zoom, and they offered me a day later.
And then here
I am a year and a half later.
That's a lot of story to take in. And, I'm glad that a turbulent flight led to smooth air here in Dallas, Texas.
I think I would have done all right if I was in person too. So,
which obviously, yeah, you're in sales, right? And, the first thing you sell is yourself, which is probably a big part of recruiting. And it wasn't necessarily one of the questions that we had, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Okay. You're in is Texas considered the most competitive state for collegiate? My gosh, how would you rank Texas as far as collegiate athletics and the competitiveness? Where we've got SMU, Rice, Houston, UTSA, which is a player now. There's
North Texas,
Houston, all these different schools that are here. Did you have any idea what you're getting into coming to Texas for the first time ever as the head coach, the first African American head coach at SMU? And then they just kind of hand you,
the reins and just tell me do what I gotta do. Here's the thing. For me, I try and not think about all that and just the passion that I have for the game, the love that I have for the game. Being that I was always familiar because I was at Baylor for 6 and recruited the Dallas area, I had a lot of connections, networks, people that I knew. It was a no-brainer for me to come back to Texas in general because Texas has the best. Had you been to
Dallas before?
Yeah.
But just for games.
Recruiting,
but you never really experienced Dallas.
No.
Which Dallas is a different animal altogether. It's almost like Newport Beach is put in the middle of Texas, and that's a different thing in itself too. But
no, for sure. But I think Texas does have the best talent. I think they have. The competition is amazing. You really don't have to leave the state to recruit, to be honest with you, or the border states either. I mean, you got Louisiana, Oklahoma. I mean, you have these states right here bordering Texas that you can get the most elite talent. And why not come to a place where the academics are prestigious to me, SMU. The facilities are amazing, SMU. You got the team and the location of where we are, amazing.
Agreed.
Marketable, number 5 marketable with the NIL now and everything.
I get it. Agreed. I'm a psycho SMU fan, and I don't know what I don't know, but I'm going to ask you about recruiting and how it kind of works. But when I was in school and they would have guys on the basketball team from like Alaska, I'm like, what are you doing? how, first of all, congrats on having the weirdest roster ever, but why don't you just go recruit in our freaking city? Right. So what does that process even look like where you're trying to go and, again, sell yourself in person, whether it's on Zoom or in person, but you're selling people on the myriad of opportunity that a school like SMU or Baylor or Michigan or Grand Prairie or Prairie View, et cetera.
Right.
What does that process look like, and how does it not exhaust you knowing that you're not going to get everybody?
For sure.
Which is hard. And for someone like me, I have an ego. And if I go after a deal and I don't get it, it crushes my soul. But you have to go and just get rid of it real quick.
Yes.
And move on to the next. What does that process look like for you?
Well, the first thing is you got to see what you need for, these next, we have recruiting classes and depth charts. And so we look at it like that by class. So, how many seniors do you graduate, juniors, sophomores, freshmen? But when you recruit kids, I try and sell as much as I can non-basketball, my vision, my personality, what that looks like for that kid coming here to SMU, life after ball, the academics, our alumni base. I mean, you see, it's the connection and touch point with everything. The other thing I talked about is the relationship piece. Like, the joy for me are the players that I still talk to from Robert Morris University, the first place I coached when I was 21. So for me, them still calling me, them having families, them getting their first job, anything like that, and them calling me, that's what I live for.
How do you remember all their names and their stories?
I mean, when you impact, as much as I impact them, they impact me. And I mean,
how many people do you think you've coached in the past 20 years?
Oh,
hundreds.
Hundreds, yeah.
That's hard.
For sure.
That's a different kind of gift.
Oh,
the guy
yeah.
that you just met as a pastor, and he's got thousands of people in his congregation. I was like, how do you remember these people's names that maybe gave, a percentage of their income to you, but I guess you just kind of figured out. So
for sure.
So back to the recruiting stuff. I mean, how do you deal with that? How does it not get exhausting knowing that it never stops? And the thing about college, best case scenario, how long will you have a girl on your team? 5 years?
Yes.
That's best case scenario, which means that from the time you meet them, from the time they're done, it's maybe a 6 to 7 year span the way with recruiting goes. So how do you mentally train yourself to go into it knowing it's a forever thing, but it's also not?
You got to use the time that you have with them, try and impact them the most. And like I said, those kids know that I'll have their backs off the court any second like that. They know me well enough, and that's what I like that they take from me once they're gone. If it's 1 year, because we had grad transfers last year, so a lot of them I only had to out. It's hard because you only can impact them for 1 year, but hopefully I've impacted them to the point where they realize I learned this from you. I learned this from you. I know Coach T. I'll have my back. She's loyal. She's trustworthy. I can go to her as a role model. So for me, I try and impact in that small amount of time, because I always tell parents the 4 years in college are the most impactful, because one, you want like-minded people around your daughter, right? You want people that are instilling things you've instilled in them for 16, 17, 18 years. You want people around them like-minded. The second thing is you want them to learn and grow, because now they go into the real world after this. So they got to know about urgency and being on time, and discipline and accountability, and all those things you're learning through the game of basketball. When I tell them Coach T time, you can ask anybody, they know that's 10 minutes early. Why? If you go to any other job and you're late 3 times, you're probably going to get fired. Probably.
I'm going to give Coach T some love here too to play off this. We had an intern last summer, Paige, and Paige's internship, I believe, was for 1 month. Paige extended it for another month because I think she just had the work ethic instilled in her, and she's from Australia. Every time Coach T says I need to show up early, every time, and she bring us Tim Tams and not Vegemite, but
Timmy Tams.
Timmy Tams. Literally, I just sit there and crush them at 8 a.m. It's like an Australian Kit Kat. But your impression is felt, and I think that it kind of goes into something that you're kind of trademarked for, is your gut instinct, right?
Yes.
And again, like the wherewithal or the guts to go and accept a position as a head coach at a school you never stepped foot on. Obviously, it's played to your benefit. But I mean, how do you go and check that, where you're making decisions on the court, you're making decisions recruiting, you're making decisions in life, but I mean, what keeps you kind of trained up where you know that what your decision is always the best thing?
Just your trust in your gut. I would say being me, and just my motivation and love and passion for the game. Like, I don't get bored by this. And I think the kids also keep me young. I say young, I'm only 40, but the kids keep
40
me
is
young.
the new 10.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's just, I actually, fun fact, over the weekend, my hands are purple because I fight age. And this weekend, my wife was out of town with our daughter, and I bought essentially this stuff that was supposed to make my beard less gray, and I didn't read the part about wearing gloves, and so it looks like I've gotten into a fight with a blueberry factory because at 42 I'm over here trying to get rid of my gray hair. So yeah, anyway, 40 is very young. When's your birthday?
October 29th.
Oh, you just
coming up.
Wait, you're about to be 41.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Technically 42, because
Okay.
my dad always says that you weren't born 1, you were born
That's
0.
true.
So anyway, a very young 42. Anyway, okay. So,
but no, I think my drive and passion and joy for the game. Like, to me, I'm a competitor. Like you said, you're a competitor. That's why if you don't make a sell, like, it hurts you like that. For me, I love to compete. So I like the X's and O's. I like out coaching a coach. I love helping a team grow from this to that. Like, to me, that's like, I love the game and passion it so much. That's what my drive.
how do you turn it off? I mean, I'm speaking for myself too. It's like you're always recruiting, right? How do you turn it off? And also, like, I have the hardest time enjoying life in Dallas outside of my house, because I feel like, whether it's a coach or a salesperson, entrepreneur, a pastor, a public figure, unfortunately, I think a lot of people are waiting for us to fail.
Yep.
Which I think makes it hard to go and just kind of be yourself in a public setting. Is that hard for you?
No, I just think there are times. I always tell our kids and even our coaching staff, like, have that balance. If we don't get a kid, it hurts. But then, like how you said, a reset mind. If I tell the girls, don't let the last play affect the next play.
Don't let the last play affect the next play.
Well, here's an example. So if you turn the ball over, I'm cool with that, but I'm not cool with that. But if it happens,
it happens.
Yeah, get back on D and try and get it back. But then don't come on offense again and just, I forgot to do this because I just turned it over. And you're all, don't let just wash it out. You miss a shot, wash it out. Next play. So I'm really big on that. I got to take my own advice, right? So yeah, we're going to work hard and we're never going to be out recruited because of work, not because we were lazy or work ethic. It might be something where they don't want to be in a big city. They might want to be in a country town. They might, we might not have their major, something like that, but never let it be because of work ethic. Let it be because of something else. And if that's the case, a player might tell me, or a recruit might say, I wanted this level, I wanted this, it's never going to be because I didn't hear from the coaches or I didn't feel the love. Or for me, I think that balance, and I tell our kids and our players and our coaching staff, have that balance, because at the end of the day, I mean, I always say life's really short, and we're here only a little bit of time, but what you leave is your legacy. And that's the important part is no matter what, any impact somebody works for you, you're leaving your reputation when they leave because they only can say whatever they've been under you. So just being smart in that aspect and how you impact and how you lead and all that.
Yeah. I think life is really long. And I think it's obviously all based on perspective. But I think that I tell you all that to where if you're listening to this today or you're watching it today or you're listening and you're watching it and getting our views up, thank you. But you can still make a decision to make an impact. And I think people at our age, whether you're 40, 42, 100, or 3, you have a lot of time to go and actually impact people. What's your escape? How do you go and find balance knowing that tennis was your first love, basketball is maybe your forever love, but how do you turn it off? Where like, are you at a restaurant, you see somebody that like, well, they got quick feet. It's like, oh my God, I have to enjoy my salad. I mean, what's it?
I love to cook.
Okay. I love to eat.
I love cooking.
But you cook for your team. And that's when Paige first started. She's like, here, this is last night at Coach T's house. She made us dinner. It's like basketball and cooking. You can't escape it.
Well, we were catered that day. So there's a little, but the team did come over. We had catered food. But I love to cook. I love the vacation. We have so right now NCAA has different shutdown periods, which was the best thing they could do. And the shutdown means you can't call any recruits and no recruits can call you. They can't call, text, do anything. So it's called a recruiting shutdown. It's the best thing they could have done. They have 2 weeks that they have after the season's over. It's 2 different weeks, so 1 week at a time. So what's really good is you can kind of shut out everything. And like the last time vacation, I went to Barbados.
Oh, wow. Well, what if they follow you on social media and it's like 2 winks for I'm still want you on my team? It's like, here I am in Barbados. And super random, but I love shooting guards that are from Indiana that are 5'8". You're like, that's to me.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't even I don't even do social media really. Like I shut down and I'm watching sometimes because I didn't even for Barbados, I just kept my Wi-Fi on. So, my airplane mode on.
Oh my God.
So the only way I was able to get is if my Wi-Fi was on, obviously through text like that. But for me, that's the best thing that the NCAA could have done is do that shutdown period. And that gives us time because we don't have time. Like you said, we don't have time to relax because when you're relaxing or you're not doing something, another coach or another team is doing.
Which is such an exhausting way to live. It's obviously what I'm used to. But there's always someone doing something you're not.
Exactly.
And I think that's hard, but you have to be able to be at peace with yourself and realize what you've done in a very short period of time is what everyone else wants to do.
Absolutely.
Hopefully in twice as much time. Okay, loaded question. NCAA, you mentioned NIL, which is this whole new world that there is no like true rule book for it. There's rules, but there's not true, order around it. But what do you think is missing from college sports? What could be implemented that would bring, whether it's better attendance, better graduation rate? What does NCAA need to do in our generation to go and, fix things?
Well, now the money was the big thing because they believe a lot of people were probably getting stuff under the table and this and that and off their name, image, and likeness. Like, think about it. I don't know. Let's just go back to, a player that would play and you couldn't have their jersey in, but they were coming to the games. They were paying all this money to watch these guys or girls, and they couldn't get any payment off of that. And so I'm just happy that they have this NIL now because, if they have their names on jerseys in the stores, or now they can sell their gear and they can, for autograph sessions or dinners or speaking engagements, they can get paid for it. These kids they're on scholarship, but you can't work.
Yeah. Oh, Reagan walked me through her schedule. We had dinner last week and I was like blown away. And I had friends that were athletes, but I never took like deep dives in conversation. She has no free time. None. And it's more work than people. It's more work than what I do.
Yeah. It's really hard with these kids. And think about being a student at SMU, like going to the library, making sure you're ahead. Now they go away games, not in class. So they're missing that from then you're teaching in actuality, you're teaching yourself whatever you missed, unless you have somebody in class that's taking notes, that's a regular student.
And they have the same expectations to pass, like someone who didn't play sports.
And you have to be eligible. You have to be full-time student. They require study hall hours. Play basketball. Remember plays.
And also have like somewhat of a life.
And have their own social life.
When I mentioned Reagan. It's a girl that I'm lucky enough to help mentor while she's in school. And I just kind of was like, what's the one thing that you wish you had? Like, she's like, I wish I had friends. And not like, but she's like, it'd be weird.
Regular.
Her only friends are basketball people,
Regular
which is great.
students,
But just to be able to have that normal experience it's not there. And so I think it's obviously only fair that if they get compensated for the work that they're doing. They're bringing revenue to the school. That makes sense.
And we just started the Boulevard Collective, which is nice. And so hopefully, they have obviously men's basketball and football, but they're starting volleyball and women's basketball to be part of that collective.
That's the NIL payout?
Yeah. So that's good now, because I will say this, Rogers, I know you're saying like for us to be at that same level.
No, I'm not saying like SMU to me is the best school on planet Earth, and it's not just because I went there. I'm saying just in general. And
but I think kids are going to start using the NIL, like some right now, for example, Texas Tech. If we're going to go to let's just say we go to the Big 12, we got to be able to compete to recruit the players that are in that conference. So if we're not giving, if someone who doesn't play is not really good, might just accept to go to Texas Tech because they giving each girl $25,000 a year.
What?
Yeah.
Like that's an actual thing?
Yes.
Wow.
So they might not pick SMU because they might be trying to help their family. And if I'm getting $25,000 a year for 4 years and I can't, even though I can't, they offer me and I commit and I'm not very good, at least I'm getting $25,000 a year.
Golly.
So... I mean, who? Do you remember anybody getting 25,000? No college players. This is. No. I mean, this is about. Like, well, I'm just saying, this is about to be the thing.
It's a business.
Yes.
Yeah. But and it's past the point where it's been out, I think, for 2 or 3 years. But it's like, interestingly enough, it was such a taboo deal, and when it launched, there wasn't like a specific
direction.
path
I know
you had to go in, which I think has benefited schools like SMU because we're competitive in like campus and school size.
But you have to be competitive in that, Eric, because kids want to get, that's what they can't work, so they need to get an income.
Yeah.
They have cars. They want to get clothes. They want to do other things, gas money. They only have a car. Like, they have to be able to provide for themselves. And if they can't work, then what a regular student can work if they're not in school.
Yeah, and then also they have no, like their summer and spring break and Christmas breaks are rigorous.
No winter break.
Huh.
I give them 4 days off for Christmas. That's it.
Golly.
First game is on the 30th. They don't have time to.
Maybe I'm actually kind of glad I was a terrible athlete. Not that it matters now, but so with all that being said too, you're such a grounded and approachable person, and I think you're great in a leadership role for any school, especially SMU, which, again, I'm glad I went there, but SMU does not normally have people that are so personable and loving and just welcoming as you. How do you stay grounded? Is that because you want to go and just always set the example? Is there what's the secret sauce? No
secret. I think it's just how I am and how I was made up. My makeup and how I grew up is, making everybody feel a part. Making sure that just being you and impacting. My big thing is like impact and how you leave something better than when you found it, or leave someone better than when you found it. And making always people feel welcome, no matter what race, color, creed, disability, whatever. Making that person feel like they were loved and wanted, and because I feel like everyone wants that reciprocated. Do
you remember the first time you actually felt the power of your leadership with one of your players?
No.
Fair answer.
Yeah, I think when it's funny, one of my players from Robert Morris said, do you remember this note, you sent me when I got my first coaching job, when she got her first coaching job.
That coached underneath you?
No, that I coached.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she still, I think for me, having that still up in her office, and I coached her 10, 12 years ago, I think that showed the impact that I know I could have on somebody. And that was when I was like, okay, I'm really impacting kids without even knowing it, One of my friends from college I played with, she got inducted to our Hall of Fame, and she said, Coach T, she said, T, can you come back to my Hall of Fame because you played against me every day and made me the player that made me into the Hall of Fame player.
Wow.
So for her to be able to invite me to do that, it was just her. Not our whole team was a Hall of Fame. It's just her. She texted me and asked me that. And for me, like, that's a peer at that point, and so for me, it feels like those little things help to impact somebody down the line, and they felt that down the line years later. So that's kind of how I feel. It's not so much one thing. It's just an everyday thing on how you impact someone so that one day it clicks for them, and then they feel it and understand it.
What's your favorite kind of player to coach?
Someone who can be coached, so can take criticism, but knowing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and understands that I'm trying to get more out of you than you even know that you have inside of you. So I'm going to pull you and I'm going to coach you hard, but I'm also going to love on you hard too. So I'm definitely a coachable player, a player that loves the game. When I first got to SMU on the Zoom, I talked to the team and I said, who loves the game and who likes the game? Let me know. And I said, who is committed to the game and who's interested? Because if you're interested and if you like it, then that's, you kind of sometimey. You're not always 2 feet in, you're not bought in, you're not all in. If you love it and you're committed to it, that's something you're doing every day. If that's in the classroom, on the court, extra hours in the court, study hall, trying to be your best at all times. And so one girl raised her hand. She was like, I'm kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I said, I'll help you. You can go to school to SMU, but we can't rock together because I love the game too much. I'm too passionate about the game. I'm grateful about the game because it can be taken away at any time. I always tell the kids, you better put in your effort to the academics that you do in the basketball court. Why? Because basketball can be taken away from you. You can have an injury. You can never play again. No one can pick you up pro. No one can pick you up in WNBA. You could never play again. But someone can never take away your education. That no one can take that away. And so you always have your education to fall back on. So if you're taking into this basketball and only basketball, I need a kid that's committed, and that's another thing, committed to the academics as much as you're committed to the athletic side of it. So, but I can coach any type of player because it's not their fault, whatever background they come from. As long as you can take my coach and be coachable and committed and love the game and academic side, that's any kid I can coach.
You look back and you look at your legacy, which you've built a legacy already, but I mean, you've helped thousands of girls, thousands of people, women, leaders, etc., people that are in the Hall of Fame, people that maybe didn't play, they rode the bench, but they learned all this. When you look back, what would you consider to be your crowning achievement? Whether it's getting the head coaching job at SMU, winning the national championship, I
mean, my crowning achievement is like everyday impacting, graduating kids. Yes, graduating kids. Like that's the achievement. It's like, I mean, there's kids that I've coached and their parents are like, I don't know if they're going to make it 4 years. No, we have the tools. We have learning specialists, reading specialists. We have tutors. We have everyone, academic advisors. Like, no, they're going to graduate. But being able to see them walk across the stage and hold a diploma, first year kid for their family, first generation kid, or being that it's SMU and like, okay, now you're going to get you a good job, you know?
So you go from coach to fan.
Yeah. Like, I just think like, being able to see them get that degree and then having them like deal with life in the basketball realm, not achieving, not playing their first year. And then, Paige, she didn't love the game the last couple of years until I came there. I mean, she told me, Coach T, I would have said I would come back this 5th year. This year, she never would have came back. But she loves it like that now. But I think that's how I impact. Like, it's an everyday thing. And that's what I'm saying. She loves the game now because of our coaching staff and how we impact her and how I made her feel. Again, that feeling of being loved and leaving something better than what it was. And that's just my everyday when I wake up, being grateful and knowing every day is a blessing and knowing I'm be able to impact 15 young ladies' lives every day.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Always tell the truth. I always tell our girls, don't lie, because when you lie, you got to figure out the next lie to cover the last lie, and then you forget what you lied about in the first place. So deal with the consequence. I tell recruits all the time and their parents. They always ask me, I said, I have a couple rules. That's tell the truth, because face the consequences anyway. The second thing, my big thing is be on time. That's my other thing. I've learned that.
She was here 10 minutes early today, by the way.
Right.
So that's
15
1:15.
I text you and told you I
showed up 4
was
minutes
parking.
early and I was late. I felt she made me do 20 burpees. And that's why my hair
I told him I was
so
changing
bad.
the name to Wilson's That.
Wilson's That.
Okay.
It doesn't have necessarily a ring to it, but we're going to get there. NIL is going to give us a sponsorship deal. So be on time and then
tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
Yeah, but I think the advice is just being you, staying true to yourself, staying true to you. Like Rogers, I think every time I've come in contact with you, if that was at the original Chop Shop or
Great FT.
or if that was anywhere though. I saw you at basketball games. I see you every day that I go on the tollway and I see your big daggone bulletin board. And I see your face. I want to text you every day.
You can. Yeah, we're still hiring
I see you
realtors.
every day.
Yeah, good. I'm watching.
But anyway, I think that like you're always the same person. Like you don't waver to whoever it is. You make everybody feel special in the part of you're not this superstar. You're not this, like you said, a public figure or this everyone feels the same. At least for me, I feel the same way. You treat me the same way every time. But I think that's what I want to do to other people.
You're doing it. That's how life should be. And the last question is the most important. How do we support you? How do we support you, the person, the coach, the fan, the mentor, the person that's going to go and you broker impact?
Right.
Right. And it's an overpowering feeling when you know what you were meant to do. You're not a basketball coach, right? That's just the vehicle that you use to go and spread the love of Coach T. But how do we best support you? By the way, she says she's not on social media. She's on social media. What's your Instagram name, please?
Oh, goodness. Coach Toyelle Wilson.
Wow. Okay. But how else do we support you?
I think just being present. Like, you're already doing that with our players and them being able to learn from you with their internships. But just, we need people in the stands always supporting our team because they want to feel that love. Like, we talk about it, but actually your action through the words and being in the stands and supporting our girls and, helping with excellence funds and all that kind of stuff. It matters. We're redoing our offices again. We want to get to that Power 5 where we're trying to get to right now. We're actually in the shop with 3 different conferences right now. So in order to do that, you got to look the part too. And so our next phase from the locker room is the offices. And so we're trying to really get SMU really looking like a Power 5. They look like it already, but just a few things and tweaks that we need to do. But yeah, just the support overall.
Love it.
For women's sports in general.
Love it. Cool. You're awesome.
You're amazing. I appreciate you inviting me on.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be your friend and just it's so genuine and sincere when you actually want to go and make an impact and know that there is no end goal, which is again, that's daunting for people like you and me. Like, there is literally no end goal. I'm never going to reach a point like, all right,
I'm done.
Let's take up golf.
Right.
It's like, no, I want to just keep working because there's always someone that needs you. But more importantly, there's always someone that we need.
Yep.
So SMU, the pride of SMU, the pride of Michigan, of New Jersey, of Pittsburgh. Or is that just a place that you stopped at along the way?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
just
good.
from Jersey.
Yeah, I don't know why I hate Pittsburgh today, but I really don't like Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I've been there before too. It's really pretty, but it's just I did not.
Well, the Phillies and the Eagles are doing really well right now.
That's true, but yeah. Either way, but we're grateful for you, and as
Appreciate
an SMU alum, we're so proud to have you represent us. So thanks for being on here today.
Appreciate it. Pony up.
Pony up.
I'm Toyelle Wilson, and this is how you sell without selling out. Rogers that.